G'day, mate. Do you want to come round for a barbie? God, it's so difficult to do an Australian accent.
$900 he does. Tobias!
God.
Are you done? Great. Then let's cut the BS and get real. What?
No, nothing's going on around here.
See, I remember watching this. I can't even remember what the film is, but I remember watching this. Funny people, yeah. And I remember her saying it, and there's one thing she did get right, and it's that inflection at the end. Or that's certainly what she emphasised.
It's completely innocent.
What accent is that?
On the side
Jamaican?
table.
Aussies have a pretty distinct accent, and it's one that Hollywood finds hard to imitate. Imitate well, that is.
Who do they think I am? Some stupid Aussie drongo?
But every now and then we get something like this.
Life is sharks. 100 million years ago, when the dinosaurs lay dying, last thing they saw was sharks.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good one.
Liev Schreiber's own accent for comparison.
To be an actor, or I guess to do anything in show business, the first thing you have to be willing to do is make a complete ass of yourself.
Not that you did, Liev. So what makes the Aussie accent so hard to do properly?
It is really challenging because it's similar to a lot of different accents. It has components of a lot of different accents, and I think that's where people get derailed.
Leith McPherson is a dialect coach and the head of voice at the Victorian College of the Arts.
I always find it quite pleasing when I listen to accent tapes where one person is demonstrating 17 different accents, and you go, wow, impressive, 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 and they get to the Australian and you go, nah.
It's so true though, isn't it, that a lot of other accents are quite distinct. So even the UK accent, quite often when the for some reason the Americans think that all the UK people are posh, they always go to the sort of the Queen's English, when actually very few people in the United Kingdom speak like that. But a lot of accents are so distinctive, aren't they? You know, and Aussie is sort of a mix of different stuff that you can't quite put your hands on. It is odd.
I've not met one American person that can do an Aussie accent. Most likely this one included.
To understand the intricacies of the Aussie accent, we have to take a look at how it was born.
The Australian accent started more than 200 years ago in January 1788, when the first European settlement landed. Aboriginal Australians were already here at the time, of course, but English was a foreign language to them. The first colonies of Australia mainly came from southeastern England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. It was the children of these colonists who would have created the Australian accent. These children had their parents' accents, but also would have been influenced by the other children around them. By the 1830s, these different sounds caused a new and distinct accent to emerge. Even as late as the mid-1900s, you can still hear that British influence. But over time, those traits decreased as people embraced the Australian identity.
Over 1 million live in Sydney, and another 1 million in Melbourne.
Oh, hang on.
But perhaps the nicest thing of all is this recent innovation by the Commercial Banking Company of Sydney. It's a little card that brings you instant cash.
We've been wandering up and down Little Collins Street now for about 5 minutes. And whilst a lot of people noticed I was carrying a gun, what was amazing was very few of them seemed concerned.
As far as you're concerned,
Oh, God, that took a bit of a turn, didn't it?
unless you're scripted, you're useless.
Order.
Unless you're scripted, you're useless.
Sorry, Mr. Keating. Anyway, this constant change has evolved the accent into what we know today as Australian English. So why is it so hard for others to get right?
I think it's because of that familiarity. So your brain is always looking for patterns. It's always looking for things that it already knows.
Take, for example, Robert Kaczynski. He's a British actor playing an Australian character in Pacific Rim.
You two are a goddamn disgrace.
Was he?
You're gonna get us all killed, and here's the thing, Ali. I want to come back from this mission.
And
that accent, yeah, you can sort of get the sort of the twinges of Aussie, but you know it's English. And I remember watching that film and never thought there was an Australian in it, because the sort of the London accent comes out a lot stronger.
Ends up sort of sounding sort of kind of a weird, quite a Cockney sort of thing that people do, and you think, that's what your brain is hearing. Your brain is hearing that pattern and then grouping it all together.
Compared to something like this.
You don't care about me. You don't even know me.
There are therapies we know are effective right now, like forsythia, and they don't even appear on the CDC website.
Can you imagine the...
Sorry, he could... No way was he attempting to speak Australian. And I really like him, but that's not Australian.
They don't even appear on the CDC website.
Can you imagine the pain they must be in not knowing where I am?
Now, before you get all defensive in the comments, no, there is no one Australian accent.
There are 3 general groupings of the accent: cultivated, broad, and general.
Without spoiling, it ends with possibility.
And here's this bloke from the bush up in Beerwah, Queensland.
See, you know, Steve Irwin, that voice, that broad voice is Australian. That is what people associate when they think Australian. That is the accent they hear, or that's not a knife, this is a knife. So, however it does, I'm no good at accents. I normally turn into an Indian. You know, that's why I'm not going to properly do it now. But the cultivated of Kate Blanchett, it doesn't sound... Hang on, we'll go try it again. It just doesn't sound Australian at all, does it?
The accent: cultivated, broad, and general.
Without spoiling, it ends with possibility.
It just sounds like a posh English lady.
And here's this bloke from the bush up in Beerwah, Queensland.
But nowadays, those definitions aren't really adequate, as we've shifted towards a more general accent. A better way to group the accent would be Standard Australian, Aboriginal English, and Ethno-Cultural Australian English.
Sometimes we take those things for granted.
Helen picked a good spot near the water and spent the morning surfing and relaxing in the sun.
That last one reflects the fact that everyone has an idiolect. Your own accent is shaped by the history of where you've lived and who you've grown up with, so we all sound a bit different from each other. But there are plenty of common traits.
And you learn over time in Australia to talk without moving your top lip. Because if you open your mouth, the flies go in.
Maybe because he's a New Zealander.
When I watched the guy in the outback talking about his story on his motorbike and dingoes, and I could hardly hear what he was saying because he keeps his top lip his top lip's so still because of the flies.
But that's not quite right. The back of the mouth at least should be really open.
So you can feel like you're almost sitting on the edge of your seat, looking down a little bit, like you're feeling like you're looking over the edge of something. And that's going to lift your tongue up at the back and give you that warm, kind of bright quality that really distinguishes this accent. You don't hear a lot of Australians sort of talking like that. You don't hear that kind of dull, what we call a D-nasal sound. Australians are much more likely to have a level of nasality.
Much more likely we all go up at the end of every sentence.
Nasality.
Because we're all too insecure to actually make a statement.
So when people are actually making a statement, but they're actually going up in tune as they're talking to you, and you may notice that quite a lot, but again, it doesn't happen everywhere. It's not a distinguishing characteristic, but it is a trait which American speakers, for example, would have to learn.
And finally, what was that last one again?
The hesitation sound, which is a really, really good way of figuring out how someone's mouth works in a different accent or language.
Ah, that's it.
So to know that that's where the Australian tongue rests is hugely helpful for, like, if like for Scots, if I'm doing like a Scottish accent, like that's their hesitation zone, which is really high and forward. Takes a lot of effort for us, but that's where their tongue rests. So for them to just drop back to gives you a sense of the whole landscape that you're working with.
And there are plenty of other common traits like our lack of enunciation and our sing-songy flow. But who knows, with technology connecting us to other cultures and ways of speaking, maybe in 100 years we'll sound totally different.
So it's interesting to see that maybe we might have more of an American influence coming in and less of a British influence.
That's already happening. The Australians, and I've noticed this, and from doing a lot of the research and learning through the videos, there is a hell of a lot more American influence now in your culture coming through than British, UK, English influence. It is a lot more American, and you know, a lot of people say they don't really like it. However, you're still embracing it. So it's an interesting subject, that I think.
But where that takes us, ooh, I don't know. What an exciting journey.
Hi there, thanks for watching.
April Chan has done some brilliant reports on different aspects of Australia, whether that's the Aussie accent to the difference in the UK and Aussie houses. She's done a really good job once again. It is a difficult accent to learn. It really is, and I'm no good at accents. I'm really not. Good eye, and even just the it's awful, isn't it? It's awful. But maybe this explains a little bit why it's difficult, because it is a amalgamation of different accents, and it's quite similar to what we already know. So it's almost hard to step over that line. I don't know. Are you good at accents? If you're a non-Aussie, can you do an Aussie accent? That's the question. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.